Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I know today's Wednesday, and Wednesday are normally my favorite LGN tournament days. But on Tuesday, I did get the last wave of figures from the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast. And shoot, I don't even know what wave we're even on. I think it's Wave 8 or Series 8. Man, like I said, it's really hard to keep track of all these series because you order all of these series all ahead of time and you basically sit around for like a year. And when they finally start coming in, they basically start coming in about every month, every 6 weeks or so. So they all start kind of piling up on top of each other. But Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, I've been saying that these figures are something where I've been highly recommending these figures, and I've been talking about, man, I'm gonna be a lifelong customer. But I've also recently in last few reviews, I've also been kind of, I don't want to say downplaying it a little bit, but like I haven't been as enthusiastic, I guess is probably the best word for it. I've still enjoyed the figures. I've definitely enjoyed picking them up, but I haven't been as enthused about the figures. I think Series 2 with Demolition has still been the highlight of the figures. I mean, the overall quality from pose to aesthetics, name recognition, Demolition is still the cream of the crop from the big rubber guys. But this wave, this series of figures, it's 4 figures deep, which is nice. So it gives you a nice abundance of figures. Now, 2 of them I really don't know a whole lot about, so I really don't care about 2 of the figures. But the other 2, it gives you all those other aspects that I just mentioned. So that is a huge bonus. Now, in the last series, Series 7 with Dusty Rhodes and Powers of Pain, awesome figures. And yeah, man. I mean, that series really should have been something that really motivated and inspired me, but there just wasn't. There was just something missing, just a little umph, a little bit more that I would have liked to have seen with those particular figures. A little bit more that would have put them over the top. Still great series, just still did not mesh up with Series 7, or excuse me, Series 2. Now with this series, is it enough to compare to Series 2? Is it going to be enough to move into the top spot of the best release from the big rubber guys? Well, let's take a look at the figures and find out. Well, what does Series 8 include? Well, for the starters, we've got Legion of Doom. Now, this one is Hawk. And what I like about this is the inclusion of the spiked chest protectors. And of course, with every new series, you kind of go back and you look at all of the previous released figures from each series. So you got Series 1, Series 2, Series 3, and Series 4. The only thing I don't like about this right here is they only show you one Andre, one Macho Man. Now, as you know, Series 4 actually included both a blue and black strap Andre the Giant, right? And of course, with Macho Man, yes, they've got the original orange trunks, but you also had that WrestleFest exclusive with the lime green trunks. And of course, later on, they came out with the pink trunks. So technically, this was like a 5-figure release in this series. So that was 4. Series 5, British Bulldogs. Yes, they have white, but they also have blue. So that was technically, again, 4 figures. Series 6 with Hacksaw, TA. Hacksaw has 2 variants, so 3-figure release. So we have 4, 5, 6. Series 7 with Dusty, and then the Powers of Pain. And then Series 7, which we're going to start off with Legion of Doom. One thing you notice on the back of this box, They do not include Ric Flair with red trunks. They do not include Ric Flair with purple trunks, nor do they include Ric Flair purple trunks with bloody face. So, obviously, with all those other exclusive figures, yes, those are part of the line, but where do they fall in line? Do they fall in as their own individual release? Do they fall in with a particular respective series? That's kind of where the confusion lies. But when you look at the back of those boxes, yeah, they do include all of these other figures, right? But they also include those particular releases. So that is, if I did have one gripe about Big Rubber Guys, that would be one, I don't want to say complaint, but that is something to kind of, I would want to know more about. Where, with the Major Wrestling Figure podcast, what would they consider like Bloody Ric Flair? What series would they consider that figure? Would they consider that to be Series 3? Would they consider that to be Series 9? I mean, how would they break that down? Do they not consider that to be a series release at all? Do they just consider this to be its own exclusive figure and not necessarily falling under any particular series? But now with these figures, I could have sworn I ordered 2 sets, but I only got 1 set in. So I am going to go ahead and open up each of these figures. So we are going to have the ability to look at each individual figure. Now with the Legion of Doom figures, I also brought out Ram Treasures exclusives. Now why did I do that? Kind of the same thing that we did with the Powers of Pain figures. I wanted to kind of compare your Random Treasures custom figures as well as sort of your Major Wrestling Figure podcast kind of figures that they have as well, because they're actual licensed figures compared to the custom figures, right? See what you, as the fans, which ones you prefer. So this is the figure in its entirety, right? And yeah, I kind of noticed that in the packaging, and this is a removable accessory. So, oh man, I don't know how to feel about this. I with Random Treasures, I kind of talk about this all the time. With removable chest plates, I'm kind of torn. I'm on the border of both sides. I'm 50-50. I either want removable chest plates or I don't want it. Like I'm on one end, yes. I love the fact that the chest plates are built on, because accessories, I mean, we're not kids, right? We're adults. We're collectors. The chances that we're ever going to lose these right now are slim to none. But as kids, when we were growing up playing with like our Hasbros, for example, or for kids growing up in the 70s, 80s that had LJNs, these type of figures, what are the chances that you actually had your accessories throughout your childhood? Probably slim to none, right? So your accessories were always getting lost. So having those built-ons, I feel like were almost a necessity. But we'll talk about this a little bit more shortly. I like the great detail of this figure, okay? I like the abs and great detail. And, oh man, look at that. That is killer. I want to bring out... See, I only brought out the black AWA version. I didn't bring out the Legion of Doom. So you're not going to be able to see the detail. I could pause and bring out the other ones, but I'm not going to do that. Muscle definition on this is absolutely spectacular. Play pose is maybe not the greatest. He kind of reminds me of LJN, Tito Santana with the arms straight out. But it is still a very enjoyable, I mean, it's definitely a playable figure. One of the things that I look for in a wrestling action figure, right? play pose, fighting pose is like the ability to kind of like body slam another action figure. Well, why is the body slam pose important? I don't know. It just like when you look at the Hulk Hogan LJN, right? The play pose, when you look at it, it gives you that perfect body slam pose. But the fighting pose, it also gives you like the perfect punch, and you can still use it as a perfect clothesline pose as well. Great punching and clotheslining, and I think you could still use a good, I don't know, just grab a random figure over here. I mean, it could be serviceable. I don't know. So it's got LOD on the side of the pants. I'm just looking this over. Says Warriors on the side over here. I like the little buckles built in onto the boots. Great detail. All right, so I love the pants and the boots. And I bring that up because I want to transition real quick to the Random Treasures figure. I've said that the Random Treasures figure was absolutely brilliant, but one of the biggest downfalls with the Random Treasures figure is the pants and the boots were so simple. And I said that the Hawk figure in particular for Random Treasures was a near perfect figure. But if you were to take like the Legion of Doom with, you know, where it's without chest plates and put those pants and boots on this figure, you would have a perfect Legion of Doom figure. But it's just plain boots, right? There's no buckles, there's no detail, there's no graphics. The pants is just sheer black. There's no extra graphics on the figure. So that's what made this figure very simple, very plain. But the chest protector, right? The chest, the actual spikes protector, I love that. I love the built-on. It's fantastic. I have absolutely no gripes with the built-on accessory. Now, with that being said, because Random Treasures does have the built-on, I do enjoy the fact that Big Rubber Guys do have their own removable accessory. One has a built-on, one has a removable. So now you have the best of both worlds. So that is a nice addition. So now you kind of get to see what it looks like from both spectrums. So I am ecstatic in that regard. Face paint wise, obviously when I think Legion of Doom, this is more of the Hawk that I know of. This is probably, you know, very early AWA, obviously. Hawk, I'm not really very familiar with this paint, but this paint is more color form, or more color, more detail. Do I really have a preference? This Hawk is larger, more detail in it. I would probably give the leg up to the Big Rubber Guys. Actually, I'm not sure. Only because Big Rubber Guys' figure is larger, I would probably give the leg up to their figure. But with the built-on, I think this is I think the spikes are probably better on this particular, on the Random Treasures figure. But they really are neck and neck figures. And looking at this figure, I can honestly say that for the first time, yes, I finally see strong competition for Demolition. Now, do I believe that they would necessarily defeat the Demolition figures? I don't think so. I'm the tournament guy, right? And I keep putting out these my favorite tournaments, and I think that the bigger Rubber Guys have enough figures out right now that I could actually do a my favorite Big Rubber Guys tournament. I still feel like it would probably come down to probably At this point, probably Demolition and Legion of Doom in the semifinals. But if I do a random drawing, it may not play out that way. But they got like, what, 60 plus figures right now or close to it. So I think that would be a fun tournament. Maybe sometime in 2025. But I think I would have to have the viewers kind of request, special request that I'm not going to just blindly make one for myself, because it's got to be the interest. The interest definitely has to be there. All right. And of course, you can't have Hawk without Animal. And what I also, if you ever been on the Asylum website, the Asylum Wrestling Store website, they had the AWA Remco style figures, right? And numbers 1 and 2 from Series 1 were the Road Warriors. And I believe they used this very similar, if not the exact same figures or same face paint. So I really like these figures. I really like the fact that Big Rubber Guy is basically used the same look. So this face paint is absolutely incredible, right? So this one I'm super excited. Anytime you get Animal, I love the face paint of Animal, no matter what brand or what toy line comes out with this figure. So the one downside with Animal, and this one is no different, Hawk always seems to get a much better pose than Animal. So I backtrack with Ram Treasures. Even without the chest protectors, Legion of Doom, you know, Hawk always kind of got that Nikolai Volkov type fighting pose, right? You add on the chest protectors, he's got the good pose. You can stick with the chest protector and stay with the same pose. Without chest protector, Animal had that, you know, Ken Patera type pose. But you throw in the chest protector, that pose doesn't work. So they give you the kind of like Arn Anderson type pose. If you think LJN, maybe Ted Arcidi, Bam Bam Bigelow. This one's kind of like a Tito Santana or Rick Martel-esque type pose. Kind of same thing. I mean, hands are in a little bit further, but this kind of like Bam Bam Bigelow meets Harley Race. So, pose-wise, fighting pose-wise, definite downgrade. But get rid of the chest protector. Look at the inside. Face paint. I definitely like the face paint. I like the green because it's something different. It's something unique. So, is it the most eye-popping face paint you've ever seen? The most graphic detail? No. Is it something that you're going to be like, yeah, I definitely got to have that paint? It's not. But do I have any complaints about that? Not one bit. Like I said, it's something different. It's more unique than what you're so accustomed to. So I love the green paint. So I will definitely brag about that all day long. But, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the pose. It's something different. I can live with it. It's Legion of Doom. It'll display great on a shelf. I'm okay. Okay, I can live with it. Same kind of details that you had with Hawk. It says Warrior on the side of the pants, and you kind of stick with the LOD for Legion of Doom on the side. With the ribs, right, and you know, definition in the muscles, biceps, and all that. You know, back muscles. Great, awesome detail to this figure. And the thing about these, the rubber with Big Rubber Guys. I mean, these things are practically a weapon, man. I talk about LJN, King Kong Bundy. When you pick up King Kong Bundy, right, that thing is an absolute weapon. It's big, thick, hard rubber. But these things, I mean, you could beat someone to death with these things. That's why I absolutely love big rubber guys. Their figures, their rubber is so amazing. Now, the one thing is, because the rubber is so hard, if you are a child from the 70s, 80s, right, and you grew up playing with LJN figures, obviously, I'm way too young. You know, I was born right in the middle of the 80s, so, you know, February of 85, I didn't have LJNs as a kid. So I wasn't playing with that. That wasn't my toy line. You know, Hasbro's was my toy line from childhood. But if you had LJNs and you were so used to, like, you know, bending the arms and the legs and, you know, using the Hulk Hogan leg and to do a drop kick and whatnot, and then you're looking at these figures and you're trying to move the leg, because the rubber is so hard, you can't really move the legs a whole lot. They are rubber. You are going to move the arms, right? But there's difficulty. So in that facet, yeah, you are going to probably, for those fans, they may have some complaints with the hardness or the thickness of the rubber. But I think 99% of fans out there that buy these figures are going to be like, you know what, these things are spectacular. So, I don't think most people are going to have any complaints whatsoever. Like I said, you sit there, you tug on these things all day long, you are not going to damage that rubber. Some of the other customs out there, you sit there, you pull back the rubber a little bit, and the rubber starts ripping on you, and you just wasted $150 of your money. So, enthusiastic about this. I like the face, man. Look at the face. That is all teeth, but I love that. Look at the shoulders. You know, the pose may not be all there and everything, but the figure makes me happy. I at least gotta say that much. If the figure brings joy, then it's doing its job, right? So I'm cool with that. And you look at the accessory, big spikes on one side, then they kind of get a little bit smaller on the other side. The chest plate is freaking fantastic. They did really awesome work on the design of the spikes and the chest protector and whatnot. So that is so cool. If you compare the two figures, again, I feel like the big rubber guys figure is a little bit bigger maybe than that of Ram Treasures. Pose wise, yeah, I say Ram Treasures a little bit better. I mean, obviously the face paint of Ram Treasures is, you know, it's like night and day. Definitely, I like it a lot better. You don't have the buckles on this figure that you did on Hawk, unfortunately. So you have the same issues on this figure that from Ram Treasures that you did on Hawk, but I'd probably give the leg up to Animal because he does have an improved fighting pose, and the face paint is a lot more incredible. You might give it a downgrade because it's not a removable accessory, but I mean, it's still, again, in my opinion, one of the most perfect figures. Definitely one of my favorite LJNs, period. LJN style. I can't call it LJN because it's not LJN. LJN style figures. So, but, and I like the skin tone a little bit better. Where this is kind of like a sort of orange-ish, more orange-brown color. So I think both companies, whether you're looking at Ram Treasures or the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, Major Bendies, if you want to call it Major Bendies or Ram Treasures, they both did a great job. Great work with their figures. So, you know, kudos to both companies. Now, unfortunately, these last two figures, I don't know anything about these characters, so I don't have much to talk about in terms of history or nostalgia or anything about the characters themselves. So we are just going to look at the particular figures and see what we could talk about. So this one is, and I really should have shown him what he looks like on card, but that's fine. Ethan Page. And Ethan Page, all ego. For a second there, I thought that the shirt kind of lifted up, but it doesn't. I don't know who Ethan Page is. Like I said, I'm assuming that this is a very modern day wrestler. I mean, how modern? Early 2000s, 2010? I don't know. I've only heard of the name Ethan Page since I started collecting wrestling. But, I mean, if I didn't start these collections, I probably would have never come across him. In fact, I think the first time I ever heard the name Ethan Page is when I started collecting the cello line. And I picked up one of his figures. Why? Because it was part of the cello collection. But great detail, great graphics. I like the arm over here. Kind of reminds me of like, Jim Duggan from LJN. So great play pose right here. I mean, there's not really anything you could do with the left arm outside of like an elbow drop. But I've always said, as long as a figure has at least one playable arm, I mean, it's still something, it's still serviceable. But I've never been a fan, right, with the pointer finger or thumbs up. So that kind of bothers me. But this is something that would display really well. Is it a fan favorite among all of the Big Rubber Guys figures? For such a great looking figure, oddly enough, this would probably be one of my least favorite pieces. And that sucks. I mean, like I said, one of my least favorite pieces, but I look at it and like I said, it's an incredible looking piece. In all honesty, I really don't have any issues. Not really. I mean, the biggest flaw is, but other than that, it's a solid, awesome piece. More solid rubber. Great head sculpt. I mean, if I actually saw this person walking down the street, I would actually be able to pick him out based on this figure. So that's pretty awesome. Ethan Page. And I am going to get him boxed back up really quickly. I most likely am going to buy a second set of these guys. Probably not from Major Bendies. I mean, if they're available on the store, maybe, but I highly doubt they're available anymore. But here is Ethan Page on card. I'm pretty sure these guys are probably sold out by now. So I'm probably gonna have to buy this guy if I want a second set for like loose display. I'm probably gonna have to buy them off of eBay. Yeah, there's a seller. I believe he's in like Cypress, Texas, or something. Well, he's definitely in Texas, but I buy a lot of wrestling stuff from him, and that includes a lot of the Big Rubber Guy figures. And sometimes I buy them loose so that I can have some of loose figures. I might get a second set of Legion of Doom because I want those loose definitely. But these other two, I don't know if I'll get a second Ethan Page, but I might get this figure loose because this one actually looks really sharp. And the last piece we're going to be looking at is Matt Hardy. Again, with Matt and Jeff Hardy, I know them only through collection, but I've never really followed them and haven't heard of them prior to my collecting days. So, oh yeah. This is definitely a figure I will probably have to buy another one of so I can have loose. This is actually a pretty awesome piece. Again, you guys know, anytime you see a figure with arms out like so, I am not a fan of that. But why do I like this figure? I don't know. It just seems like a big, bulky figure. And I'm not talking bulky like chunky, chubby, fat figures, basically. When I say bulky, chubby figures, big husky guys, your big boss man and your King Kong Bundy types, right? Your giant haystacks and I don't know, your one man gang figures and your Mabel, guys like that. Basically, Yokozuna, any of your figures that are big, wide, plump. I like those figures, but this one just seems like a wide, probably because of the expansion of the wingspan, right? It just seems like it's a big wide figure, but I like the head. The head makes it seem wider, like it's more broad with the shoulders, and it's not so much that the head is big; it's that the hair. Like the head is here, but the hair is out like so. So the hair is kind of lined up with the shoulders. So when you actually look at it, right, that's what makes it like really more broad than it really is. So I really like that a lot. I like this figure. Don't get me wrong, those Legion of Doom figures are definitely the highlight of this series. But man, I am really enjoying this Hardy figure. I gotta make sure it is. So, I gotta find me a pair of these pants. These pants are sharp. I don't know if I've got the look to pull off a pair of pants like these. But man, if I could still wear them around the house or something. Those are beautiful pants. One of the things that the figure collection store and Grapplers and Gimmicks and Major Bendies and all these companies are starting to do, I gotta find the right word, have started to do, tongue tied, is put their stamp on the bottom of the figures. And and I've talked about these stencils, and I feel like every time I do these reviews, I gotta bring up the stencils because I feel like it's important. And when you look at the 1980s LJNs, Series 1 through 5, the figures are expensive. You look at Series 6, the figures are still expensive. But but then they just explode in price. Look at Big Boss Man. Look at Andre. Haku. Mint figures. Maybe somebody put some tape or something on the bottom of the feet. And they were standing on a shelf or a table or something. And over years, and they take them off the table and that glue peeled off the stencil. You have a 100% mint figure. But that stencil is either completely faded off or it's almost practically illegible. Someone is willing to pay $400 for an Andre the Giant that's 60% paint loss on it, but they want to give you $90 for an original 100% mint Andre the Giant. What's the difference? Well, that Andre the Giant original that has 60% paint loss comes with a stencil on the bottom of the feet, where the other Andre the Giant original 100% mint doesn't have the stencil. So when I talk about the big rubber guys and these other companies, I really feel like 30 years from now, 40 years from now, these figures that have the stencil on them, I kind of feel like these are gonna start shooting up in value. I mean, I could be wrong. Everybody that knows the value of action figures today, everybody's collecting them. So you have thousands and thousands of people collecting the exact same items. So does that really mean that these things are really going to be as valuable 30 years from now, the same way that people that were collecting, let's say, LJN's, Hasbro's 10 years ago? Probably not, but I'd like to think so. Matt Hardy, this is a beautiful figure. I like the expression on his face. Good graphics and details to the figure. Once again, let's read off the stencil on the feet. Plus, I like to look at it and be like, hey, okay, this figure came out in 2024. Awesome. Next year, I'll look at, this came out 2025. Okay, cool. If I'm selling an item 6 years from now and I'm like, hey, when did this figure come out? I don't have to get on Google or something and try to find out, what year the stuff came out or whatever. I just, nice. Type in my listing. So that's a huge help as well. But Series 8, if you guys haven't picked up any of these figures, I don't think they're available on the major Bendies store, but you might luck out. And if you haven't done so, get on eBay. You might be able to find them for around $50+, but actually no. Major Bendies, they've gone up in price. They used to be $50 for the figures. Now they're hovering around $70. Still a fair price, but like I said, that's one of the things that I've been griping about. I used to say that, 3 of these used to cost 1 of these, but now you're basically getting 2 for 1. And if they keep going up in price, it's not really going to be much of a difference, right? So, but that is my review, I guess. Definitely Series 8 was a spectacular improvement. Yeah, I think Series 8 is the number 2. I think Demolition is still number 1. I don't think any series will ever be better than the Series 2 Demolition figures. The fact that they had 4 figures, it did make it very close, but I still say Demolition Series 2 was the best release from Big Rubber Guys. Series 8 came very close. I will put them as the second best release, and I will put Series 7 with Dusty Rhodes and Powers of Pain at number 3. And how do I rate them from there on? I don't know, but at least we have a top 3, which is pretty simple. Guys, tomorrow, Thursday, so Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I will go back to the My Favorite LJN tournament. We will begin round 5. Round 5 will only be 3 videos deep, so tournament's almost over. 3 videos in round 5. We're only looking at, I'm thinking 1 video in round 6. Should only be 1 video round 6, semifinals. And then, of course, 1 video for the finals, round 7. And that will conclude the My Favorite LJN tournament. And round 6 and 7, that's not going to happen until next week. But round 5 will complete this week. Over the weekend, Sunday, and possibly Monday, I will do the Epic Toys review for the figures that came in, and possibly the Wrestle Something wrestlers on Monday, unless something else comes up, but that's the plan for this upcoming week. And of course, on Tuesday, we will get out Hasbro review for Series 6. Alright guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care everybody.